You are so odd.
You got energy. Hold on, what kind of apple is it?
I don't say in public.
Mm. Yeah, he's got a thing. He's got a thing about apples.
Yeah,
Yes, I know.
we'll just call it a red delicious.
It's a red delicious. It's always a red delicious.
4011.
Well, Adam, this is James. James,
Hey,
this is
Dave.
Adam. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Thank you.
I've never.
Is that a gaming headset?
It is.
Sweet.
It's actually provided by my work.
Sweet.
I do we do all of our stuff on uh online, all of our meetings are like Teams meetings and
Yeah.
everybody's got to have the proper gear, and apparently they go straight to the gaming gear for headsets. So it's what I got, and
That's
it'll
awesome.
work for today.
Yeah, I can dig it. Oh man, James, you're kind of a journeyman of many trades. So before we get to like what you're doing these days, like I want to get to like to the origin of your journey here, right to the meat of it.
Oh, right to the origin, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Been all over the States, that's for sure.
yeah.
And the Americas a bit, up into Canada and Mexico, but originally from Salt Lake City. Um, spent the first 20-ish years of my life there.
What was that
Um,
like?
oh my, that was well, I'll just say leaving it was a bit of a culture shock, just in general, like seeing what the rest of the world is like outside of what they call the Utah bubble. Was raised by Mormons in Mormon Mecca,
Yeah, you were
and
full blown Mormon, right? Like,
yep, yep, all the way up until they um, ask you to commit 2 years of your life to nothing but their um, religious work and trying to get other people to join, and that's when I actually jumped out and left.
right
Wait,
before the
Um,
recruitment years.
you
yeah,
you're is it required to do that?
well,
Or I mean,
so
like link not required, but like
they
If
would
you
say it's not required,
yeah.
but
if you want to stay,
if you want, well, and what I found, in my experience, what happened was, um, as soon as you go through all of your early years and like, you know, targeting 19, you go on your mission, like that's everything that you do in life up to that point, according to them. And everybody's, really supportive and loving, but the moment you question if that's actually what you're going to do with your life, it's like, um, I've yeah, I've described these experiences to a counselor, and it's like it is the epitome of shunning. Like what happens
Really?
is like all of a sudden, like people just treat you different. They look at you different, and it's kind of like a split. Like of some of the people who are like the closest people to you, all of a sudden like really like try to embrace you and like get really close, and they want you to spend all of your time just like in um some kind of situation with those people where they can like try to help you troubleshoot through why you're questioning and give you like motivation to get back on the wagon and
Hmm.
roll with it. And then everybody else is all of a sudden like, man, they don't want you around their kids.
Wow.
Um, yeah, they get all like, you know,
dude, it's
the
like a that's like a phalanx approach. Because like
yeah,
one
the
half is like this is what your life is going to be like if you don't listen to these people, and these
Yeah.
people are
right.
keeping you corralled here so you can't be influenced by anybody else. Because if you're not being influenced by them, like you're under the mind control of somebody else.
Yeah.
That's it exactly. So that was a pretty interesting and abrasive experience to go through. All of a sudden your whole community like turns their back on you, except for a few
Yeah.
people that are just focused on getting you back on the path. So that was a lot.
Yeah. How long did that period last? Like when you decided you started questioning the agenda and then leaving. Like how long did they court you and shun you at the same time?
Well, that was so that's it's a process. Um I started to question right at, I was little over 18. I was in my senior year of high school. And at the time, I know they've changed their timing status now, but when I was that age, was 19 was your target date to get out on a mission. And the thing was is I all I said was like I don't really know if I want to go right now. I think I'd like to get some school done first. And so I got a job at a bank and was going to school at the University of Utah there in Salt Lake City. And basically the way that it went down was that my parents didn't have a lot of money, but the ultimate thing was like if you don't go on a mission, we're not going to give you any support for school. So I
Hmm.
had to pay for my first semester of school straight out of pocket. Everything I had saved working through high school, I put right into one semester of school and it was gone.
Damn.
Um, but they do try to encourage you that like but if you do go for these 2 years and you uh come home, then we'll do what we can to help you, is basically, they don't say it like so directly, but that's all kind of the way that it's laid out for you.
Yeah, like the
So,
army. Like if you serve in God's army for 2 years, then we'll pay for your college.
yes, exactly.
Wow.
Or at least help and support.
Yeah,
Um,
we won't shun you if you.
right.
I mean, and these might be, we don't have to talk about this stuff either, but do you have a pretty decent relationship with your folks now, or is that sense?
Um, well, I didn't talk to them at all for like almost 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, and then so this gets interesting. I'll come up to this. So basically, 19, I started questioning. I moved out of my parents' house when I was just before I was 20. Got an apartment with some of my friends. Started to kind of experiment around. First time I'd ever had a drink. First time I'd ever, smoked a cigarette, like, because first time I drank coffee, because they don't allow that. Uh,
Oh,
um,
I'm out.
Right.
yeah. Um,
Shunned.
but yeah, so like 20, I left and I tried to kind of putz around Salt Lake City for a couple of years and try to at least maintain a decent relationship with my folks and my family. um, while I was working and, I got one semester of school in and then I would just basically said, if I want to go back, I got to like really start working a lot. And I
Yeah.
was working 2 and 3 jobs, just working away. And then at 23, I finally decided that was enough. This is not going anywhere. It's time for me to leave, which that has its own whole story about how I ended up actually like getting out, but moved to California. And that was the point at which I didn't really talk to my parents for the next 6 years or so.
Sure.
Um, and then like the one time, like after several years, took like 5 years, I finally like reached out to my folks and was kind of like trying to like make amends in a way.
Yeah.
They're like, I was getting word from my sibling that my parents were trying to get a hold of me, but nobody knew where I was living. So get a hold of my parents and they're like, "Hey, we want to send you a birthday present. Your birthday is coming up this next month." And I'm like, "Great, sounds good." So I gave them my address, and like 3 weeks later, the Mormon missionaries show up at my door.
Oh,
And
no way.
Oh,
yeah, yeah, they kept coming back like week after week, and they kept missing me. And my roommate was the one who was there. whenever they would come by. And um, basically, she says to me one night when I get home from work, she's like, "This is the third time they've come by, and now they're trying to convert me, and I don't want any of that crap. So can you tell them
Wow.
to go away?" So, like, I tried to kind of target a time when I knew they'd be around, and kind of had some words with them, and told them I wanted them to stop, and basically they told me that I needed to take it up with the bishop. So I went through the process of getting a hold of the local bishop, and I told him, because this was when I was growing up, this was like the ultimate curse word to like basically talk about excommunication. Like if
Yeah.
you get excommunicated, it's like the worst thing that could happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I basically told the bishop, I want to be excommunicated. Please stop communication with me. Like, I don't want you people coming around my house. And he was like, did his due diligence to like try to get me to come in and sit down and have a meeting with him and talk about it.
Oh no.
And it's like, no, dude, like, there's no talking about it. I want you guys to stop talking to me about anything. And I ended up having to write a letter to the presidency of the church to get them to approve my excommunication. And I did that when I was like 28 or 29. I still have the letter. I've actually saved it in case those fools
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
come around. Like, please,
I'm excommunicated, man. Get out of here.
yeah,
Yeah.
get out of here. Uh,
Jeez.
you know,
I mean, that's up there with harassment. I mean, that's,
it
Yeah. They won't
is.
even let you leave.
No, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I watch some interesting dystopian shows or get into reading some dystopian books, like it gives me like, really like identifying feelings. It's like, oh yeah, like they're
Yeah.
they're after you, you know?
Yeah. That's wild. Because, like, I mean, I have a very less dramatic, but like I have a similar experience in Christianity, but like it's implied. Like there's no like they're unspoken rules or whatever, but like they're not explicit like that. Like there's not official rules and letters that need to be written. That's just
Right.
like wild that so many people subscribe to that.
Well, and their religion is, you know, I'm not into organized religion as a whole, but I would de describe them as being the ultimate of organized religion. They're
yeah.
very
Yeah.
organized.
Well, they're
They're
military. I
Yeah.
mean, even the history of it is like the Brigham Young days is really interesting. That
yeah,
I mean, just the military aspect of it alone is crazy.
yeah, for sure. They got all their militias. I don't know if
Yeah.
either of you saw the new Netflix series out, American Primeval.
Oh, I did
But
see that. Yeah.
oh my
Oh, yeah,
gosh.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that story, I see that when I watched it, there's like two storylines going on there. There's the one that's like is historical, like, truth that actually happened regarding the Mormons and the military and the natives,
Mhm.
and that story of all those people that got massacred is actually a very true story that the church to this day still denies that it happened.
Oh,
And
really?
they put in a great amount of effort to try to stop that show from being released. Dropped in lots of money in litigation and went after those the producers of that show, trying to get them to halt. They didn't want that getting exposed. And then the other storyline is the more like family based storyline with the lady and her
Yeah, they're
son, like
yeah,
that's like a totally that's the fictional,
right.
the part that you can identify with is, like, more personality wise, and then the rest of the story is actually quite true, and
Wow.
they deny it to this day, so it's kind of wild.
That's super wild.
Well, I wonder what I never watched the other show that was out, the banner under the banner of was it under the banner of
Under the
heaven?
Banner of Heaven, yeah.
Yeah. I never saw that, but I heard that that had some controversy too, but that was
Yeah,
pretty good.
the more when it has controversy, it's probably because it's true.
Right.
You're right. When, when these stories come out about, you know, Mormon history, like the Mormons usually have a lot of like kickback.
Oh yeah, I wonder what the pushback was like for South Park.
Oh, right. Well, and
Oh man, what was that
Trey,
called?
yeah, their story that they did about they do the dumb to dumb dumb dumb
Yeah.
uh yeah, episode. It was really good actually. And those two were actually raised Mormon, Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh
that either. Okay.
yeah, they went out on a Mormon mission and actually I'm not sure exactly what happened, but you can get a really good idea if you watch their first movie, Orgasmo. Uh,
Oh,
I I
Orgasmo's fucking great.
I think it is pretty telling as to like probably pretty
Interesting.
true about what happened to them and their experience, but that
Huh.
kind of is like their like what happened to them and how they like what got them away from that.
Yeah,
Huh.
and the book they wrote the Book of Mormon. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah, the church was way against that. Like
Oh, I can only imagine.
oh yeah, they went nuts over that one. And actually, when I first moved to New Mexico, been here 11 years now, the Book of Mormon was on tour and
Yeah.
I went with my kid's mother and her dad. Uh, he took us to go see it at the Pope Joy Hall down at UNM, and oh my gosh, it was
Yeah, pretty good.
so amazing. It was so amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Well, what brought you to New Mexico?
My kid's mother, actually was living in Northern California. Um, ended up there after I left Utah, and met my kid's mom there, had our first kid there, my daughter. Um, she'll be 12 next month. And when we were actually about to have my son, while she was pregnant with him, she wanted to get closer to her family, and she's originally from Santa Fe.
Okay.
So brought us out here to be closer to her parents, and um, yeah, that's how I got here. Otherwise, I would have never been in New Mexico, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
have
And
a
never
similar
saw it for
story.
myself.
Yeah, that's how I ended up in Minnesota is following someone else, following a kid.
Yep,
That's the move. It's a good move though. It's worth it.
it, it is. It's worth it.
Yeah. Johnny just ended up there because he is a random human being.
Yes. I got a wild hair.
The desert called his name and he
Yep.
answered.
Yep. I was on a road trip with my second Wendy, and like we were on the road for like 4 months, and we were trying to figure out. We had saved for a while, stashed up. We're driving in her car. We'd camp. We'd stay in hotels. We'd price line shit to make it cheap, and then we'd like plan to go places where we knew people so we could crash. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, fucking 4 months to the day almost. To the day. But like, got through the passed through the desert, man. Saw this little shack in front of some butte. I don't even know if it was it. And like, I fell in love with Santa Fe once I got here. But like, once I knew that the Southwest was calling me, I saw that, and it was just like, man. I didn't even know what I was gonna write yet, but it was just like, man, if I had like 4 months to get weird out in a place like this,
Yeah,
like
dude.
I would do it.
You got to heed that shit, man.
Yeah. And it should have been like a telltale sign right there. Like
Yeah.
I'm with this person that we're trying to figure out a place where to stay. And it was like, man, if I had a chance to do this by myself, it would be right here.
Nice. Well, and
Should have
that's
just
very
been like, you
much
can just drop me off. I'm good.
right. And
Yeah.
that's very much like
Yeah.
how I ended up in Northern California. It was a wandering kind of stage, looking for where to go.
Yeah. That's all right. That's a good thing, I think. I don't know. I was telling last week when Johnny and I were talking, it's like I feel like other places are calling me. I don't know where to even think of to go. I wish I had a job that I just go for like 3 months somewhere and then back and then 3 months and back.
Right?
Because I feel like it takes you don't really even know a place until you get good at grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's my theory. You have to be,
Yeah.
yeah, once you're good at getting groceries, you know a place pretty well.
You got to get a routine because you can't like get a feel for a place on vacation because
No,
that's not what real life is.
right, right. I wish it was.
Hmm.
Well,
Um,
and just from my experience, my advice is just put it out there and then you got to listen, man,
yeah,
because
man.
the message will reach you. Like something will kind of give you a sign like, this is a good thing to follow, like pursue that, and sometimes it's just a stepping stone, but it
Right.
at least gets you into another place where you can then continue to listen.
Well, that's a very
Yeah.
spiritual attitude, James. Like, how do you feel like your experiences with leaving that affected your faith today? Like, how I'm sure it had a huge impact on you.
Oh,
Yeah, good
well, yeah,
question.
I mean, and to I don't identify with any religions, which
Right.
is kind of one of the ultimate things is that like when I first left, like I was throwing it all away. Like
Yeah.
just throw it all out, do and try everything, just kind of like experimenting. And, at a certain point I got to where I realized just because a lot of this is bullshit does not mean that you have to throw everything away that was given to you. Some of
Yeah.
it still has some merit. And so it took me, a little while longer to kind of like grab, get a hold of like the components that was taught to me that I really still felt were
Yeah.
an
Let go of that
important,
bias.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like things that are like as important to do as a human,
Uh,
just like ways to treat people and, the respect for family and stuff like that, like kind of starts to, you know, you you have to throw it all away. And then once you throw it all away, you kind of pick through the trash and find
mm.
the gems that are still left in your own
Yeah.
wake.
Almost like have to rebuild your faith from scratch, it sounds like. Like it's
Yeah,
Yeah, but you get a chance to like it's a reset. You get a chance to choose what you want. Like you said, like it's a part of the process. Like you have to
yes,
overcompensate. Like and it always happens with the most like repressed norms or organizations or whatever environments. And
and
like
I wonder,
as soon as you get a chance to breathe, like you're going fucking ham.
yeah,
well, and
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of impact it has versus like there's almost like a benefit to having this. I don't want to use the word cult, but like very like
I
structural, like,
do.
militant. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
putting words in your mouth. I'm just and but like this really militant attitude towards your religion, and there's almost like a benefit in having to really question all of it, rather than a lot of people grow up with like their faith is just kind of like church on Sunday. It's Christian light. It's
Yeah,
not imposed on them enough to where they even question it.
Yeah. You're just
So
like
yeah,
doing the bare minimum so you
and,
get in heaven.
and you don't really get anywhere with that though either. You
No.
don't get anywhere interesting with that. In
No.
my opinion, it also
No.
could
yeah,
be very depends on the person. Some people are interested in it and not, but
Well, yeah, but like I agree with you. I think you're missing the point. Like when just gets lost in the ritual and you just follow the ritual because that's what you're supposed to do. But it's just like, I mean, whoever you want to emulate, Jesus, Buddha, or who's the
yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah,
Krishna.
Krishna.
Muhammad,
But I was gonna say who wrote the book of who wrote the Book of
Uh,
Mormon?
Joseph
Joseph
Smith.
Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Joseph
Yeah,
Smith.
And it
yeah,
wasn't, and that the thing is too, it's like that was written in like the 1830s. So it's
yep,
like it it's almost like, okay, what do people even know then? I mean, like
right.
based off a
Yeah,
religion that's thousands of years old, it's like how are they going to redo it it's such an incredible, it's actually a really
but
incredible accomplishment.
It
yeah.
is. It really is.
He jumped such a major shark because like I mean I gave you the version I gave you the version of it that I had, but like
Right.
a couple of cute Mormon girls stopped by my house a couple times, and
Yeah.
like I was entertaining it a little bit, but like I'm like I can see how you're honeypotting me, but I was like, oh, maybe I can reverse honeypot you. But then I was
Oh,
like,
I love
no,
that.
I'm just starting a cult. I'm just
John, you
stealing.
are the type of guy that tries to out scam the scammer on the phone.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. If you're gonna, like, I didn't bother you. I was minding my own business. If you're gonna encroach on my peace and harmony, I'm gonna make you wish you never did.
Right.
Oh yeah, but back to jumping that shark. It was just like, yeah, God wrote this down on these tablets, and then he told me to destroy them. But you'd trust me. And they're like, okay. I mean, like, that's the Cliff's Notes, but isn't that about how the story starts?
Yeah, that's about it. And minor correction there. God did not tell him to destroy them. One of his angels came down and took the book back with him.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
that's
oh,
right.
that's
And the
right.
angel,
But yes,
the
it
angel was named
disappeared.
like the angel was named like Macaroni or something. Right? Am I
Yeah,
crazy?
Moroni.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Moroni.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was yeah, macaroni. I'm like,
No,
God,
you're
that
not far
angel
off.
macaroni.
I like that, in fact. I think that's what I'll call him now.
The
Macaroni.
angel macaroni.
And he's the one that they put on top of their temples with a trumpet facing east.
Okay, so did you know a lot of people that had land in Missouri?
I did not know a lot of people, but I did go to Missouri. That
Yeah.
was actually one of our most significant vacations when I was growing up. I was about probably 12 years old.
Yeah, okay.
My family went and we drove from Utah across Wyoming to Omaha, Nebraska,
Yeah.
where my aunt was living, my dad's sister. And then from there, we kind of went and did like a whole like Midwest Mormon church tour. We went to um they had their first place that they tried to settle and build a temple at was a little town called Nauvoo. Um,
Nauvoo. Okay, that sounds yeah,
yep,
that
it's
sounds familiar.
it's in Illinois.
Yeah.
Just on it's like that was the first time I ever saw the Mississippi was when we
Yeah.
were going there. We crossed over that. That was like, whoa, like that's a lot of
Yeah.
water. Um,
Powerful.
and then we ended up one of the main places we went to was they have this place that they call Adirondack, which is in Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay.
And the church bought up a huge piece of land because, according to them, that is where the original Garden of Eden
Yeah.
is there in Missouri.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and so
wow.
they've preserved it, and they believe that that is where when Jesus comes again, he will come to Jackson County, Missouri.
Yeah, it's
See,
Zion, baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're mixing
That's
stories though.
I really only know a lot about that because I grew up in Missouri and
Uh-huh.
kind of near there, and so I was like, oh, and I would meet a lot of Mormons there, and you always put the traditional thought is obviously Utah Mormons, like that's
Yep.
Mhm.
but yeah, it was there was always a big population there.
Look out for the Missouri
Yeah. Well,
Mormons.
it started in New York, and then they got pushed out. Tried to settle in Ohio for a little bit, got pushed out, and then ended up Illinois, Missouri, kind of
Yeah.
like that region. And that
Damn.
was where they kind of got a real foothold. And that was where Joe Smith got murdered, actually, where he got um killed while he was by a mob. Was there, and then from there, actually, the governor of Missouri put out an execution order for all Mormons.
The Missouri
And
Mormon, it's the Missouri Mormon War.
yep,
Oh,
and then
wow.
there was a lot of bloodshed that happened there, both of Mormons and by Mormons. Their militias that they built up, they ended up fighting back, and from there they pushed further west. They wanted to try to find their mecca, their safe space, and ended up in Salt Lake City.
Damn. That trek from New York to Ohio, like that's a long way. Like they must have had like so little luck. Everybody's like, "Nah, man. Fuck off.
Like, dude,
Yeah,
Keep it moving."
you translated this in a hat. Come on, man.
right.
It's awesome. Dude, I've wondered, Joseph Smith must have been the most charming
Oh my gosh,
dude ever.
right?
Oh yeah. Because like that's the number one thing you need to be a cult leader is charisma.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't even matter what you if you have enough charisma, you can make people believe in anything. It doesn't even matter. It's like all you need is a weak crowd.
Well, and so when he first got started, he paired up with a guy who owned a publishing company, and that was the guy that he used to help him translate this book. So
Oh, okay.
that was how he was able to actually get it into print and start to circulate it. But turns out in a publishing company just a couple miles down the road, just a few years earlier, there was actually a book that another reverend pastor had written that was it's very racist, but it was very much this. He had this inspiration that these people um who were previously Jewish, Hebrew, left the Middle East and ended up in the Americas, and that is where the population of the Native Americans comes from. It branches like that is where the Americas got their
Yeah.
people. They did not come over the Bering Strait, you know,
Yeah.
tens of thousands of years ago. They came across the
Just
ocean in the Pacific or the Atlantic in a boat.
Hmm.
And so it's funny that that is actually also that book was released a few years earlier, and he used that to write his own story that is the Book of Mormon. It was kind of like when you look at those two books side by side, there's a lot of like, somehow he was supposed to have been told this story by God, but there was a book that was written just a few years
yeah.
earlier. Uh,
That's amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing that it still took off. It's like, oh
Well, he was
yeah,
able to take it and twist it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He
Well,
kind of
that's nice.
remixed it. Yeah,
I really that
reimagined.
that just shows how powerful the pamphlet was in those days. How powerful
Right,
the novel was in the book,
Well,
right.
there wasn't that much information, so like,
and it was booming then. It was
yeah,
like it was. I mean, that was like the Great Awakening days or Second Great Awakening days. It was like the pamphlets were like the king of communication. Writing was the king. People would spread that shit like it was the viral meme of the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
I
It's
mean, just in like
amazing,
the historical sense, it's awesome.
right? It's amazing the power of the printing press, isn't it?
Yeah, and I geek out on that stuff anyways. It's just
Yeah,
like the historical work, but
me too. I'm a big history nut. I um actually that's one of my um vices is I listen to a lot of history podcasts.
I
I have
mean, hardcore history.
a little bit.
You listen to that
Um
guy?
I have found the ones that I like. Dan Carlin's a little tough for me to kind of like really identify with, but it's mostly just based on like really like the length and
Yeah,
how much kind of speculation he uses to kind of weave things together, which all makes I mean it all makes he's great at, history
he's
mind for
intense, dude.
sure. He's intense. But
Imagine,
I
wow, imagine the time.
right? And I like to listen to more like sequential, like give me the like baseline facts of like, go from like step to step to step so that I can kind of formulate some of my own speculations and ideas, much like he does. Um, but yeah, I'm uh big on some
Yeah.
history. Those are my favorite kinds. That's actually where that is what got me into podcasting. I did not it took me I was very late getting on the boat of
Yeah,
podcasting. I think it was 2018 or 19. I finally like, someone said something to me once and I was like, I should try something. And
Yeah.
I went and was like, give me something on history, and
yeah.
started following this guy and was like, oh man, this is incredible. Like, and now I'm No, I'm totally addicted. I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time. Like, I got an hour drive to work. It's like perfect, 45-minute, hour-long podcast.
That's
Here we
exactly.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep,
That 45 to an hour is the sweet spot.
it
Yep.
is.
And John and I have gone over it a number of times.
Yeah, yeah. We don't pick up steam until the end of the episode. Like the pressure's off. It's like, and it's also the Minnesota goodbyes.
True.
Like,
I have to be somewhat firm today just because I have a billion things to do before work, but
oh yeah,
that has typically been the move. Like, all
right.
right. Oh, and by the way, I didn't tell you this either.
Yeah,
Right?
keep forgetting shit.
I don't run at crosswalks anymore. I walk.
Well,
Oh
you
yeah.
guys better get started now.
Yeah, I
Yeah, start
am
wrapping
so
it up.
burnt out, man. My brain is fried anymore. I am just toast.
You're in the home stretch. You're almost
I
you're
know
almost a master archaeologist.
you're graduating this semester, right?
Yeah, I've got 5 weeks left.
Oh, someone listens to the pod.
Oh, I
Huh.
I listen. I listen to them all. You
Well,
guys
hell,
are
man,
awesome.
that's a bummer because you're the one then. We can't have our one listener on the pod. Damn.
Yeah,
Well,
right. Shit, we blew it.
I was thinking about you guys when I was cooking my eggs this morning. I was
Oh
like,
yeah?
this is proper podcast preparation right here. Got to have my eggs this morning.
Oh yes. Yes, for sure. I'm gonna put
Yeah, man.
that. I made a clip of that one too. I gotta put that out. Like
The
the
eggs.
egg ears.
The egg
Yeah.
years, dude. Oh man, I've probably surpassed 29,000 now.
Oh, you've been.
I was trying to explain to my girlfriend the egg thing, and I was like trying to do it from memory. I'm like, she's like, okay, what? I was like, you don't.
Yeah, it's like,
I
why
couldn't
would you?
explain it correctly. I couldn't explain it correctly.
Okay, but if you had of, would she have still been like, why did you spend time doing this?
No, I think she would have actually been like, hell yeah. I wonder how many I've had.
Oh yeah, well that's dope.
Well, that's what I
Yeah,
thought. As
We
soon
could
yeah,
do
when
some.
I heard you doing that, I was like, huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking about, bread puddings and creme brulees, thinking about
everything.
like all the things that I've eaten, French toast, like so many eggs.
It's ridiculous.
dude, chickens and eggs, they are God's most precious gift to us. Or
Yeah.
to this, not to us, to this universe though. Like they just, I mean, forget about farm chickens. Like let's go wild chickens. They just walk around shitting food.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even when I was a vegan, like I didn't know this until, or like vegetarian, but like even till like maybe afterwards, like I didn't realize that. I thought those were like aborted chicken fetuses. Like I thought every egg that we eat could have been a baby chicken if we
Oh,
hadn't.
oh, oh, oh. Yeah, I
If
thought
we,
that too. Everybody thinks that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I still kind of prefer that.
You like that better?
Yeah,
You
Well, I
like
mean,
eating chicken fetuses?
yeah,
The
yeah.
embryo.
Feel stronger.
But yeah,
you
but
know, we're
even without a cack, they just walk around in the forest, shitting food for everybody.
It's true. It's like it doesn't even bother them.
No.
they do prefer it that way in the Philippines. They eat their have you guys heard of balut? It's a food in the Philippines that they eat.
Mm-mm.
It is actually fertilized duck eggs. So they've been fertilized and they've actually grown to the point where they actually even have like little, hair like feathers, and they have like their beak is like partially formed, and they
That's a,
take these eggs and they dig a hole and they bury them, and then they leave them in this hole for I'm not sure how long, but some, several weeks or a couple months or however long. And then they actually eat those duck eggs. And a friend of mine who actually he went on a Mormon mission to the Philippines. That's where I heard about this, but he had these and he said you can actually like when you bite into it, you can taste the crunch of the bill, like
whoa.
the
Oh,
yeah,
I'm interested in trying that.
yeah. I'm not interested.
no.
You
I mean,
you
it's
let me
just
know, Adam.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated in that stuff.
Yeah, I'd see it done, but I'm not really interested in trying it.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that's what it is, but it's like, it's too real.
I'd like to watch an American eat one. Like
it's true.
that would
Oh
be
yeah.
Americans do have such a such their own unique relationship with food that it
right,
is a thing.
Oh
I look at like some of the diets that people are like, how much salt do you need on something?
right.
oh yeah. Just
Much.
without even tasting it. Just
Yeah,
going for it.
burning it through you.
Yeah. And then you just like stick to your comforts too. Like my uncle Tyrone that I like took care of in California for a while. Um he spent his whole career, he worked for the state, like he was a state auditor. He traveled all the time or whatever. But like so he didn't try new places when he went. Like he went to chains and got the same thing every time. Like he'd go to Chili's and go to Applebee's and go to Red Lobster, and
Yeah,
like he'd get one of the same three things every time. Like even when we were back in California, it was just like he didn't want to deviate from anything. We'd go to these same places, and it's just
Missing out.
like I know, but like
Couldn't do it.
yeah, and I had to think about it, and just like well, like especially being raised poor, like you're just kind of conditioned a certain way.
yeah,
And like you can't fuck around with food. Like the worst thing you would could do is like gamble and not like it. Then
right,
you've wasted money and you're not
Right.
satisfied. So it's
for
just like,
sure.
I'm just gonna bet on the baby back ribs because I know they're good.
Yeah, the tried and true. There is
Yeah.
there was a push. There was like a big push maybe 10 years ago in Denver to start food trucks that were bug bug based proteins,
Oh, really?
ants and crickets and
Crickets, yeah.
grasshoppers and stuff. And I never did try it. I'd have more trouble with the bugs, I think. But I've heard like ants. They put ants on it and it gives it like a citrus. It's like lemon.
Really?
Really
Ants
is.
taste like lemon?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
Hmm.
tried dehydrated carrot or crickets, but
No, I haven't. I'm
worth
freaked
it.
out by bugs.
Worth it. It's
Really?
actually really good.
Hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Hmm.
I would do it again.
Interesting.
Yeah. They got a good texture, kind of like the crunch. It's kind of like eating little makes me think of like um those little like kind of like veggie fries that people are into now, like
Uh,
kids especially. They
Oh,
get them for
sure.
kids, like little crunchy. It's just kind of like got a little like kind of like a chip, crispy, kind of crunchy. It was
Interesting.
actually not bad. And you mentioned that um, Americans have a very interesting um, uh,
Relationship.
relationship with their food. That makes me think of what actually. So I studied some agriculture for a couple of years,
Okay.
and that is where that branches from. Is because when I got to California, I was way up north. It was in the cannabis industry, like the mecca of cannabis industry. It was in the what they call the Emerald Triangle, Humboldt County. Is where I was living, and everybody's into growing up there, but they're all growing. You know, at the time it was actually gray market cannabis because it was like medically
Yeah.
accessible, but it was not recreationally legal. Um, but
What are the
one
cartels like up there?
Oh my gosh. That's the thing is in Humboldt County, um, when I was there, that was actually the one entity that local law enforcement would actually target.
Hmm.
They didn't care if you were out there growing, hundreds of plants on your property. If it's your property or you have like a legitimate deal to lease property from another local and you're just out there growing and doing your thing. It was the cartels that they were after because there was a lot of cartel action going on up there.
Hmm.
They would do a lot of like guerrilla grows, like they would go out into the forest and set up these like bottom dollar, grow the crappiest stuff in the greatest quantity that they can, as cheap as they can, and then they throw a few guys out there with weapons to protect their crops and stuff and set booby traps and stuff. So that was actually a big thing there. They actually targeted these cartel grows because they would end up leaving booby traps out in the forest and then people would get injured.
Oh,
Even if it
just
wasn't that year's grow, it was from previous years, like someone just left it there and like hit
Whoa.
a yeah, hit a booby trap, find yourself without a foot, you
Yeah.
yeah,
know.
Holy
like
cow.
So
landmines left from war 10
yeah,
years ago.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of wild.
That is.
Um,
That's
yeah, and then some of them would do it like above, relatively above board. They would buy it, or they would lease or borrow some property, and they would set up these huge tunnels, grow tunnels, um, and the the law enforcement would just watch enough to figure out if this is somebody's, kind of personal business, like gray market business type
yeah.
Yeah,
grow, or if this is like, a bunch of yahoos coming up from Mexico, like
Setting traps.
just
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it was kind of wild being out there. It was like the last remnants of the Wild West, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
yeah. Oh, dude, shit. Speaking of Wild West, dude, I always have a fucking some kind of adventure in Albuquerque when I go down there. Dude,
Yeah.
it put me in a weird spot yesterday. 'Cause I was at the ATM, and then there was like this domestic situation ensuing in like a car or whatever. Like the girl's trying to get out or whatever. She was in the passenger side, like the door was open, then he would like pull off. 'Cause like at first they were in front of the ATM, and then I walked up and they pulled off, but like they kept going like that, and eventually went off the curb, busted up like the bumper or something like that, and then it was just yeah, it was starting to get hectic, and like I was put in a situation like, do I just physically intervene right now? Should I call the cops? And I'm just thinking, all these things are going in my head. It's just like, oh, I can take this guy, and like he's harassing a woman, so he's a bitch. And then like my mental state of mind lately, it's like just waiting for somebody to deserve it.
That's
Like,
the ultimate guy fantasy too.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's like, should I just go it? But it's like also like,
Turn the gun around on him.
right. But speaking of gun, like it's Albuquerque, man. This guy could
Yeah.
easily have a gun, like in his
Yeah.
waist
Yep.
or in his car.
Yeah.
Like after it was done, like eventually, like my presence was like enough to like let her walk away or whatever, and like the cops knew about it, and like there was another car that saw, and they called the cops too. So it was good enough, but like I mean, still for the next like for a couple blocks, I'm like, oh shit, like is this guy just gonna like roll up behind me and pop
Right.
pop?
Yeah. That's spooky, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like as like
Were you in the
and
war zone?
I was on Central.
Okay, you're not far from it, but
No, not far from it.
you
Central
might
near
have been
San
you might have been
Mateo.
east west in the vicinity, so it was kind of a
Yeah,
trickle down a couple of blocks from the war zone.
near
War
Central and
zone.
San Mateo.
Yeah, there's a neighborhood in Albuquerque they call the war zone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 'cause it's sketchy. It's you like that kind of situation you would find on the regular,
Really?
just yeah.
Yeah, that's spooky then.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah. And that's
Albuquerque.
yeah, and that's just like straight survival mode. Everybody's walking around in fight or flight. There's
Yep.
just like that's why like it's those situations are sketchy because so many people have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like they don't give a fuck.
Well, and
And
a lot
like
of
but
those
like
people are mentally in a flight mentality and they're ready to fight.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're
They're just
high as
always on
hell.
edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That put me in a weird situation like as a man because like as a man I felt like there's you don't even think about it. You just save this woman at any cost. But
Right.
like logic like
Not much.
What would you
But
like?
then
What would you?
self-preservation kicks in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
self-preservation kicks in, but then I feel like shitty about myself
no.
for like
Oh, uh,
self
uh, yeah.
instead of like falling falling on the sword or whatever, I guess. What do you think you guys would have done in that situation?
I would have handled it, but whatever.
Pulled out the old billy club, take it to the
No, I
knee.
would have been did the same thing. I think your presence is good. Presence and making sure that they know that like, hey, there are witnesses here. Like,
Like people are watching,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what if she had a gun on him?
right?
Maybe she had held the gun on him earlier. Yeah, let's victim shame.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's such a
Maybe
perfect
she had a gun on him earlier, and then she
You
was
can
trying to
never,
get away, but like she was trying to handle it and talk to her. He was trying to be reasonable, but
Yeah, yeah,
she
yeah.
was leaving.
There we go. Let's rewrite the story so that it's better. No, I don't know what the move is, man. You got to pay attention. It's like last night. We were sleeping and heard some screams somewhere in the neighborhood, and I was like looking out the window. This was like a 1 a.m. late, and couldn't tell, couldn't see anything, didn't know. But it's like that sticks with you. You're like, what? What
Yeah,
if? What if something's really going on and you didn't see it? You didn't know, but
right. And
uh,
it's like the type of scream can really get you
yeah,
too. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if it's real visceral, kind of like has like a certain like fear to it that you're like, oh no.
yeah.
Like,
yeah,
Or did
that's
someone
like
see a mouse?
right, it's like human instinct. Like now you're like, do I need to run?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. But
exactly.
but the mouse thing, that's funny because like yeah, somebody could scream bloody murder because they saw a mouse.
yeah.
It's like
And then
that's
you
what I mean.
just,
I don't
yeah.
know.
And then it's in the neighbor's apartment, so you just bust in the door,
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, well, yeah.
and
It's
then
just
they're like, "What the fuck?" And then they shoot you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Great.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful way to wrap things up here.
James, you got to come back on, man, and tell us more about the your experiences with the Mormon Church. That's really fascinating, and not just that, but whatever.
Sure.
Yeah,
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 no, there's a lot, there's a lot more I could tell on that front and then, otherwise as well, that's one that's one component of my history, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I've built a lot of my own history since too, so
yeah. You're well traveled. You're multi-educated.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Like you've been going to school most of your life, haven't you?
seven and
What's
a
that
half
like?
years.
What's that like? I hate that.
Oh man. It's well, I was making good progress. I've got a trajectory. I've got, you know, 22 more classes I got to take to get the degree I want. But in the
Wow.
meantime, I've got three small degrees, three associates, plus like several certificates. As I've kind of like John was kind of alluding to, I've kind of you know
Poked away there.
dabbled in a lot of different areas. But yeah, I've got like 2 more years, but I had to take a break because after I did like the last round I did like 3.5 years straight and was like,
Wow.
oh, but I had to go back and start earlier in math than I really wanted to be
Yeah.
Hmm.
doing, but I wanted to make sure that I understood it so that when I get up to those higher levels that that I'm not like scrambling in my mind for something that I learned 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot, man. It wears on you. It's exhausting.
Yeah, yeah. So taking a break, but yeah, 7+ years of college, man. It's
Oof.
you know, I'm proud of you for pushing through. Last
Oh,
semester you're on the home stretch, dude.
yeah. I just need some water. I just need some water.
Yep.
That's all I need. Couple of
Gargoyle.
couple of weeks and some water, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
couple of weeks and some water.
Right on, guys. This is awesome, man. This is a
Title
lot
of
of.
Adam's memoir.
I know. I know. I'm literally gonna go straight from this. I have papers due tomorrow. I got to work tonight. I'm gonna go start writing, typing about a book that I haven't even read yet. It's gonna be great.
Cool.
We're
Yeah.
just
Nice.
scrambling through it.
Nice.
Fuck yeah. All right, James. Well, thank you so much for sharing your
Cool.
journey with us. Yeah, we're gonna get you on again, and
Right on, guys.
all
I will
right,
talk to y'all later
Yeah.
on.
sounds
Right on.
good.
Yeah. Good stuff,
Namaste,
fellas.
You are
bitches.
so
Love it.
odd.
See ya.